Hello, it's Dr. Fixmaster. As you can see on the bottom of my garage door, the trim has cracked and it's falling apart. So let's spend a few minutes today and get that fixed. And as you can see, I've got this kind of U-shaped trim on the bottom, and there's a groove here, there's a groove here. You need to access that groove from the very end of the door, and you have to slide the new trim on, take the old trim off, and you can see that there's a bit of a problem here because I've got this bracket in place. So there's a way to get around that. Let's talk about it. So you'll see that you're going to want to do this when the door is up. And the reason for that is when the door is up, there will be minimal tension on this cable over here. Now, I'm actually going to do it on the other side because I want to be able to have room. Right now I've got a wall over here, but I'm going to do it on the other side where there's no wall. So if I walk you over here on this side, you can see that the rest of my garage is over there, so I've got lots of room to maneuver. So I'm just going to leave the other side connected to the door. When the door is up like this, there aren't a lot of tremendous forces involved, but I still want to be careful, so I'm going to figure out a way to put a little bit of load on this cable. When the door is up, there's minimal tension on this cable. You can see I can just move it with my fingers, so it's not pulling that hard. If it's really tight, you need to be more careful because that spool is attached to the garage door spring, and that's putting a force to assist the door. So you gotta, depending on how much tension in that cable, you need to be careful because as soon as you disconnect this, what I have to do is I have to remove this bracket, disconnect this cable, and as soon as I do that, I have to either just put a small load on the cable to hold it in place so I don't unbalance the door. It's not going to be a huge issue in my case because there's not a lot of tension on this, but you do have to keep in mind that this whole rod is under at least a small amount of tension. When the door is down, there's a lot of tension on those cables. When the door is up, there's not very much. And that should give me enough slack to take this bracket off right here, do something with this cable so that I can thread my my new trim strip onto the bottom of the door. I was able to get this cable off just by grabbing it with both hands and yanking on it and pulling it off of this little post that it sits on. Then I brought it over here and I made the mistake of letting go of it. When I did that, the cable just it wants to be straight. It unwound and made a mess up there, which I'm going to have to wind back up. But there's really not a lot of tension on the cable itself. The garage door spring over here is mostly unloaded, and I've got it still connected on the other side, so it's not gonna unhinge. But just be careful about the tension on that cable. If there's a lot of tension, you might want to call a professional to have them come look at it. But in my case, I didn't feel threatened at all by the minimal amount of tension that was on my cable. It's likely that yours will be the same. So if you can jiggle it around and move it, you're probably safe to do what I'm going to do here. These are 11 millimeter bolts. I actually can't operate a camera and do this with both hands, so I'm going to just turn the camera off when I have this bracket removed. And once I have the bracket loose, I should be able to get that roller out as well, and that'll free the space so that I can get that strip back on here. There's the bracket when it's removed, and here's the door just kind of hanging down now. So now I have plenty of room to come in here and feed the new strip. Oops, feed the new strip into these grooves and take the old strip out. Let's see if I can get some of that done here now. Oh yeah, that's gonna slide right out. Oh, it's just crunching in my hand as I take it off, so this one's quite old and in need of replacement. There we go. This is what the new strip looks like. You can see the kind of the flare on the ends there that's going to fit right in those grooves, and it's going to slide across. So I'm going to feed those in there now and get it done. See if I can just do it with. Drop that down and see if I could just demonstrate it. There we go. So that goes on this side. The other one goes, oops, I got to do it at the same time, so hopefully I don't miss it while I'm trying to do all this at once. I think I'm going to need both hands to get this. Okay, I got them both threaded now. Okay, I'm definitely going to need both hands to thread this. On the new strip, you'll notice that there's kind of some lines that help seal the door. Make sure those lines are on the outside and not on the inside, because you can actually install it both ways, and I started putting it on the wrong way. So make sure that these lines that you see here are on the outside facing the bottom, then they'll be the ones touching the ground when it's all installed. Well, this is about as far as my arm can reach, and the other end is just kind of hanging here. So this is a two-person job. You're going to have somebody holding this and threading these as the other person grabs onto the end here and pulls it this way. Right now that's not going to go anymore because I need some help from somebody else. That's basically the whole procedure. Once I get that threaded on the other side, you just take a razor knife and trim the ends, or trim it to the length that you need. I'm probably going to have to just cut it over here, which is fine. When that's done, all I have to do is put that bracket back on, and I'm done. And don't forget, when you're finished, to put the cable back. I'll show you a picture of it when I'm all finished. There's a picture of it installed with a new trim. Alright, everything looks good out there underneath the garage door. I'm going to give you a bit of a disclaimer and a warning. Earlier in the video, you'll notice that that spool that had the cable that supports the garage door weight on it, that cable came unwound and was kind of in a mess right there. Don't let that happen. It is absolutely necessary for you to, when you unhook that loop, the cable loop from the door, you have to keep tension on it a little bit, just enough to keep that spool wound, because if that spool comes unwound, you're going to have to do all kinds of things, and it's a bigger mess than you want to deal with. Even if you have to take that loop, put it under tension, nail it into the wall right there, or wire something to it with some, some random wire. You can put a hammer on it or something heavy enough to hold that cable in place. As soon as that unloops at the top, you got a huge mess to unwind, and it's really difficult to correct, and you'll have to have two people to correct it. What happens is if you get slack and it unwinds on one side, and you try to fix it on one side and you're doing things, you notice on the other side the same thing has happened, because you're putting slack in the line, you're taking the tension off of the door, and those things have to be done at the same time. You usually have to have somebody helping you to get those spools wound properly. So just don't let the cable unspool from the wire up at the top. This is a job that you have to be careful with, because you are dealing with cables under tension. That's why I recommended that you put that strip in when the door is at the top, because there's minimum tension on those lines. There shouldn't be much there. Something that you got to make sure that you can actually pull it with your hand before you should even attempt to undo it. You don't want to explosively release energy that's going to hurt you, or who wants to be injured. So that's just a word of caution there before you do this. Make sure that you're confident with what you're doing so that you don't hurt yourself. And I think that's it. Happy fixing.